Hi, I'm April Bey. I'm an artist in the Textures exhibition. Academia is really hard to work in. Um, Teaching is great. I love teaching. I love being an educator. But having to do that inside of a system that was created for people who doesn't look, they don't look like me, and they don't reflect our students either. And how do I make work in academia and manage both platforms? One sustains the other. So teaching and interacting with students and bringing my studio practice into the classroom helps me learn as well as an educator and as an artist. For example, a technique I might have been using for years and also teaching for years might quickly become a different technique entirely because a student made a mistake and it turned out to be amazing. So that's one aspect of it. The other is my art and my practice is therapeutic, and it's a way for me to recuperate from being in academia, being a creative in academia, not just art. Like musicians go through the same thing, dancers go through the same thing. It's like you have this urge that you want to teach and you want to bring in the generation after you to be successful peers. But at the same time, like you recognize that the very system you work in tends to hinder students like that. So I merge the two often, and I teach with a mentorship model. So I bring them into my studio, I take them to openings, et cetera, et cetera. And I also try to use my position to actively deconstruct and redesign academia. It seems impossible most of the time, but sometimes it's not. Like sometimes you can get really cool projects, really cool collaborations domestically and internationally because you have like a big giant machine that doesn't always function the way it should and probably needs to be rebuilt. But it's all we have right now. So the title comes from slang that we use, those of us who use hair relaxer and those of us who feel like we need to have it. We call it creamy crack. So like it's relating it to a highly addictive drug. And hair relaxer in and of itself is like, it has a lotion consistency when it's mixed up. So it's creamy. So it's a play on words between creamy crack, which is like an obsession or a lust heavily rooted in white supremacy that we jokingly refer to as creamy crack. And so the piece is called Creamy Chris because it was one of the first like hair, not really a documentary, but like it was like a hair film focused on like the subcultures of black hair, right? And in particular weave. And it covered a lot of really interesting things, but it didn't cover like the underground subculture of black millennial women on YouTube who were pushing along the natural hair movement. It was mostly focused on Eurocentric ideals of beauty in the form of straight weaves, rather than this creative entrepreneurial movement on social media for black women to help each other figure out how to go natural with their hair. And I was in grad school at the time when I saw this film and I was outraged. And my best friend was like, but he's a comedian, like what do you expect? Like how deep do you expect this documentary or film to really be? And then I was like, you know what? You're right. That's so absurd. Like, so I made this piece of him as a literal clown to remind myself that, you know, we art reflects and it highlights And his work was still valid and important, but at the same time, like, it just pushed me further to want to make work that highlighted the subculture that I was a part of. And in regards to screen printing with hair relaxer, so at this time when I was making this work, I was really focused on the actual product, hair relaxer, when it was invented, why it was invented, what the chemical makeup of it was. And I was experimenting with the product and putting it on different surfaces to see how it would react, learning that it's extremely caustic and toxic, and that I had been doing it to my own hair since I was 5. It was an experimentation of sorts to see how far I could push the material. And I found out that hair relaxer chemically is not that different from haze remover, which is a product that we use as a last resort to clean out screen printing screens. So if you can't get the screens clean from just water, you have to use haze remover, and it's extremely toxic. You have to wear gloves and like a mask, and it's very similar in chemistry to hair relaxer that we just slather on our skin and our hair. So that's Creamy Crisp came from that series of work of me like using hair relaxer as an art material, as paint, as ink. And I thought it was interesting to screen print it through a screen, and as predicted, I was only able to pull one print. It was a mono print because the hair relaxer would start to dissolve the screen because of its close chemistry makeup to the haze remover that is designed to remove the screen. So it was an interesting process, and probably a bit foolish, but you know, experiment. Growth. So we're looking for positivity. Okay. I love plants now. Like, I got into plants, growing things, having things that that rely on you, but not really, you know. I have been learning how to be more empathetic and approach everyone with compassion and love as much as possible, because we've all been very, very, very traumatized and stressed out during 2020, during the pandemic. And I have learned that for the most part, people try to be good and they try to do the good thing. And I'm really happy that my students are sticking with me and they're doing great, even though they're struggling, and we're all struggling, but we're all just trying to help each other get through this year. And that was a really cool lesson for me to learn, because I was pretty cynical and not necessarily impressed with humanity. Yes, I have my first solo museum exhibition at the California African American Museum, and I can officially say that. And it's gonna be crazy amazing, because all of the work is now based on the premise that I'm an alien from another planet sent to observe and report on Earth. So I'm doing an installation where I'm building a region of the planet in the museum, and I'm also building a portal that transports you to the planet in the museum, and the portal is made out of a large quantity of plants that will be growing in the museum, and it's going to be really cool. I'm excited, and it's all new work, so I'm very, very excited. And what am I looking towards in 2021? Decolonized museums, and actually giving land back to indigenous peoples, and traveling. I want to go home to the Bahamas and see my friends and my family, and I want to go back to West Africa and do research. And I'm looking forward to standing next to people, like a lot of people, again. and seeing art and going to openings. I think that's it. Thank you.